All right, what we're going to do is just to show a short demonstration on making a tool handle that comes as a kit with Rockler's screwdriver kit. They're normally come for $9.95, $9.97, and we'll look at a different portion of this afterward about how cheap you can get, which I'm really good at being cheap on some things.
And the Rockler one's the one that comes with a square.
Oh, it comes with a Robertson bit.
Robertson bit.
Yes.
And that's something to consider depending on where you buy it. If you want one with a square bit, go to Rockler. If you want one without a square bit, I think Alan Lacer has
PSI's got them in different places.
And it's just a long and small flat, and a long and, I mean, a big and small Phillips and a big and small flat.
Yeah. I actually prefer that when I'm giving it out as a gift. For my own use in the shop, I like having the Robertson bit on there. And we'll put on there. Okay. Let me cover some of the things. I've got two sets of instructions, one from Rockler and one from PSI. And looking at the differences between the two, somehow you're going to end up with a screwdriver. But there's things I prefer the Rockler a lot better as far as instructions than the PSI. PSI had a couple things that just didn't make sense to me. And there's one thing Rockler had that didn't make any sense to me. You know, the first thing is they're talking about the stock you're supposed to use. PSI says you should use stock that's 2 inches by 5 inches long. Well, the math just doesn't work like that. If you look at this diagram here, they're telling you this is the part you're supposed to cut. From the one end to the other end, they're saying it's 5 inches there. And then you got a 5/8 inch that you put there that you could turn as a tenon. So that comes out to 5 and 5/8 inches, and they're telling you to use a 5-inch stock. So that didn't come out right. They're telling you also to use a 2-inch stock to start off with, which you don't really need 2 inches. The point though, they're telling you to use a 2-inch stock. There's no reason why, if you're going to cut something that's going to be that big, that you need 2 inches. That just makes no sense at all. Okay. It's a real easy project. You're going to put it on. You know, we want to use the same safety precautions. Use this. I'm not going to use a mask. You know, your heavy stuff's going to fall, and I can't talk to you, you know, that way. So I'm going to start off by just putting it on here and getting it ready. One of the other things I didn't like about the plans was it tells you to turn your to drill the first hole for this 1 1/16 inch deep into your wood with a 5/8 bit. 5/8 bit I agree with because both plans will say the same thing on here. But if you go 1 1/16 in there, this actual part that you're going to put inside the hole is 1 1/2. You know, so somebody that did the instructions did not do their math very well.
Or they changed the specs on the kit.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, measuring the parts, I'm thinking if you go 1 1/16 and you epoxy that in, that thing's going to stick out that far.
Also,
Yeah.
doesn't it tell you to take that and go all the way to the bottom too, with that same drill versus?
Well, there's
using
two different
drill?
methods. If you use the one from Penn State, you use a 5/8 inch bit. You go in 1 1/2 inches, so you're enough for that, and then you use a smaller bit on the inside to go down. They use a 7/16. Now that'll work fine. You can do the Rockler's method. You take the 5/8 inch bits and go the full length. You know, the only difference is it might be a little stronger on the inside that you didn't take as much wood out. So either method will work. I like to go in there with the 1 1/2 inch with a bigger bit and go in with a thinner bit from there. Just as long as it goes long enough that you can get your screwdriver all the way in the shaft. So I'm going to start off by putting it on here, show you how you do that, and then we'll go from there. One of the first steps, you're going to have to find the center of your wood. I got everything backwards. Now, you can do this a couple different ways. What you don't want to do, not that you don't want to do it, what you want to do is find the center of board on there. If you're gonna cut it between centers where you're using a spur drive on here, you wanna mark both ends. If you're not gonna do a spur drive, I use a chuck, and what I did was I use a piece that's longer so I can part it off and just leave this part in the chuck. You know, if you wanna start with a 6 inches, or like what they were saying there, you know, you can do that and then turn it around. I just prefer to use that. Now, as the woodworkers will tell you, there's a million ways of finding this on there without measuring. I put this on here, and I just look at the grid lines, get to the right spot, put the punch on, and hit it. That's my method of finding the center. Now you can, you know, use the pencils going from different directions or going crosswise, however you want to do it. You know, that's up to you. These are like $2 at Walmart. It's perfect for what we do for a lot of smaller items. And they also have 2 other ones. Another one that's like 8 inches, another one is 12 inches.
What section are they in?
Sewing.
So,
Yeah.
quilting.
I thought it was.
You probably go upstairs. She's not home.
It could be in the quilting section. Okay. What I'm going to do is bring this up in here and then bring my point to it in. I've got it loose on the end. I'll bring it up, not put much pressure on it. Then I'm going to tighten this, and I'll tighten this up afterward. Now, the only reason I'm using my tailstock in here was just to line it up. Now that I know where it's square here, this is tightened up, I'm going to bring this off. I'm going to put my chuck in the other end. Okay, now I've already marked this on here, how far I want to go. This is right about 1.5 inches. And
You drive chuck.
yes, I did that before I took the other one off. I'm not sure how what speed this is on, so let me turn it down. You should do this about 400. You want to come in and clear out some of the stuff you got in there? With a dry wood, it doesn't hurt anything. Go a little bit more. Wet wood, a cocoa bowl, it's going to stick in there and attack in, so you got to be careful with what you do on that. Okay. I get ready. I'm looking for the Jacob chuck to pop off there. All right, that was a 5/8 bit. This one is actually 1/2 inch. It's calling for 7/16. I figured I'll split the difference with them. Being a Rockler saying you could use the 5/8 all the way through it.
You got the mark on that?
Sort of. Okay, now we're going to go the rest of the distance onto here, where I've got it already pre-marked on here. And again, I don't need to hold it so much when I'm going in, but when I'm coming out, I make sure I hold it when I come out. But I have had at times where I'm on there where it kind of catches, and it will come loose as you're starting, so I usually hold my hand together when I'm doing it.
Look at that magic marker thing on the drill.
All right, that's all the drilling we got to do. This is a really easy job that doesn't take much time. It's easy to turn because you got one little piece that you're going to turn, and for cutting the holes and stuff, there's not a lot of preparation for it. Okay, I was trying to do it faster, but it's just not going to cooperate with me. Okay, if you use a cone type of live center here, it goes right up into the hole, and you know you've got it centered. Put it in, just put a little bit of pressure on it. You're on there. So what I'm going to do is just more or less clean up the ends and stuff. I'm going to get it round first, and then I'm going to go back to getting the tenon on the end. Okay, my weapon of choice is a skew, just because I'm so used to turning pins with a skew. When it comes to something round like that, I usually don't use something to get it round. Okay, I want this down a little farther. That's the same heartburn I have with my little lathe. It's got this small part on here. You got to get one section, then move it. This does not lock down real well. Sure is irritating. Alright. It's just about round. Me and Hans just did a couple of these. We should have him up here doing this part.
If you didn't like that, just stole the big one from the other.
No, the shaft where it goes in here is different size.
One's a 1 inch, one's a 5/8.
Okay. I got a little bit before I'm to this stage, but what I want to do is take the ferrule here. This is what we're going to have to cut a tenon to. So I'll measure the ferrule about where I want it at, make it just a little bit bigger. Well, that would have been easier. I hate moving these back and forth. I'm just going to mark it to see where I'm going to start at. You want to end up, this thing is 5/8 inch wide. Or this way when you put it on. So what I'm going to do is put this on, just kind of mark about the general area that's about 5/8, because I'll get closer after I get deep. And I'm going to start working my way down, just with a parting tool to get it around to the thickness that I set it up for the part on there. Now, shut that up. I don't know what kind of wood it is, but sure is nice and dry. And all of its friends burned up the other day, so. I've actually got that caliper set for a little thicker than what it needs to be. When I get it close, I'll take it off and put that on the end, the ferrule, just to fit it that way.
If you get it too small, how do you enlarge it?
You put, I'm gonna, you know, you want a little small anyway. You want to get it pretty tight fitting, but I try to make it a little thicker than what it's supposed to be. If it gets too small, you're gonna put it on with epoxy anyway. See, I don't want it flopping around loose on there, but I.
Wrap a piece of paper around it, Joe.
I knew you'd have something figured out.
Don't ask me how I know that.
So before you joined here, you wouldn't use duct tape.
Yeah. This is like completely backwards on here. You're almost going straight down to tighten that one up. Well, it still goes way down. If you look at this, it fits on great as far as that goes. I need to turn this part ledge down a little bit so we get in there, and it fits in perfect down there. So I'm pretty close. I turned this up for support. When you're doing anything that gets around this long and you're just holding on to a chuck, just barely bumping it, you're going to send it off. This way we know we're doing it centered good. I may need to go just a little bit more than that, but I can sneak up on it, but I can't go back. Oh, that's perfect. Okay. Now, I'll show you when we get ready to put it together, but when you go to put this on, when you actually mount, there's a beveled edge on there. You want to put that to the outside so it's smoother. That's supposed to do that. That thing is going to drive me nuts with that noise. Okay. Now, there's a couple ways you can go from here to finish this off. I'm going to go ahead and just clean it up better, and I'm going to go inside there and just go a little ways in so I still has enough strength to hold it. Now, you can part this all the way off after you've got it finished and turn it around and clean up the edge. What I've been doing is I get this down to a small enough by the time I sand it and get all the parts done on it that I've only got a small area. I just part it off and I do it by hand. You can do that, or you can turn it around and rechuck it with the other end, you know, before you put the ferrule on and do it like there. So I'll just clean this up a little bit. Do we have one a little thick? Is it a thicker one out there?
In a flat or?
No, round. Okay. I'm just going to sand this real quick. And hey, that works pretty good. I don't have an extra hand when I'm at home. Okay, that's all I'm going to do with it. What's that? Yeah, well, I'm going to... If you haven't used that EE Ultra Shine, I use it after the 400 grit, which when I first got it, and I didn't have any instructions and didn't have any more knowledge than that, I went through, I put in 150, 180, 223, 2400, and then I went and used the micro mesh all the way up to the lowest setting, and then put that on. Well, that is a lot more abrasive than any of the micro mesh. So after 400, you use that and then go back. You know, there's a few different types of sandpaper. You have the oxide, you have the normal ones like what we're using here, and then you have you know, the different, like the micro mesh, and each one's on a different scale. The 400 of the normal sandpaper is, when you get to there, it's like 1500 of something else. You know, that you know, they're completely different grades on there. I'm all excited because I get to use my new Triple E. I've had one I bought a year ago thinking this one was going to run out, and I'm just down to the bottom of this, so pretty soon I'll be able to use it. Okay. For the finish, I'm using Mylan's sanding sealer and friction polish. I just put a 1 and a 2 on here because I use this one first, this one second. You know, no more logic to the naming than that. I didn't want to write all that stuff on there.
And it comes in what, 16-ounce bottles, cans?
I think they're about 16 ounce. I ran out completely, and they are going to start carrying the Penn State version of it here, which I actually prefer, but I had to go out and buy some this week, so I had some for today. This is a sanding sealer and friction polish, and we had a discussion earlier today about spraying lacquer on something, how long it has to wait. Well, this has got lacquer in it, but you're actually heating it up in this process, so by the time you're done with it, it's completely dry.
Using something like that.
But they're all, most of them are shellac based, kind of like we're on.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and take off the end of this, and like I said, I'll finish up by hand later with things there, but I don't want to take too long with it. This is a tool, Mark Chalet, I think, ground this for me. And it's great for getting in there for small details into different areas. A lot better than, I don't want to just use a parting tool and go straight. I'd like to make a little bit of a curve to it. And that way I can attack it with this. And yeah, and as Hans says, this is his favorite tool. Okay, I still got a little left on there. I'm going to go ahead and sand that part while I can, so I don't have to do as much off the lathe. There's about a, 3/16 holding it. I'm just pretty tough, so if it comes off, he'll catch it. He'll catch it one way or another.
I guess I should do like you ready to take my hat and put it back in the floor. For my luck, it'll go right there.
I'm going to skip a few steps here. That way, by the time I take it off, I just got a little nub I got to get rid of.
That's a scary thing.
Okay, I'll just have to clean this up later. And last time I did, I just took a sandpaper, put it on the, just instead of anything fancy on it. Okay, now I want to go ahead and just assemble this thing, which is a very easy process. Did you find a,
No.
being here at Peachtree, whenever we mess up and don't bring the right stuff, like the Jacob's chuck, then we can come here and just buy a new one. Okay, some of the mistakes that you can make, and I have made every one of them, was how you put this stuff in here. When you get ready to put this together, you have to make sure, I'm just gonna set this on here, I'm just gonna set my parts cleaner. Okay. There's two sides of the groove inside of here. That's what this is gonna latch. I thought he was, okay. All right, you gotta put this on here. When it goes in, it's gonna lock into there. I'm not gonna push that hard, but if you turn it around backwards and you put it in a screwdriver, you throw the whole thing away. There is absolutely nothing you can do. You can't get it out of there. You can cut the wood in half and reuse the parts and throw the wood away. But anyway, I have made one that I did wrong there. And then I did another one that I did not, let me make this on here. I did not make this thing, the hole in here deep enough. And when I get ready to put it in, it goes to the end here, and this was bottoming out before you got to the end. Now, on that one, I just went ahead, took this off. No, I got it. Okay, anyway. Okay. What I did on that one is I took this off, and I epoxied this in place, so I just changed the bits on the end, which worked out okay. But I figured out later that once you got all this stuff in, like on here, you can still put a drill bit in there. Just got to be careful. You can put a drill bit in there because all you got to do is fit it for the end, so it's got to be pretty thin. So I've made that mistake. I've made several mistakes. One, when I was turning it, I kind of like putting a little beads and stuff in here, and this one's not so bad. There was one we had as an example out here. Oh, right here. Okay. If you've got this on here, and you made this little bitty groove on here, if you drop the screwdriver, that's going to break. And I can tell you how you found out. First time it hit a hard floor, I had chunks flaying off of that thing. So when you go to do it, you know, move your bead up something like this. There's just no way that you're going to break that off. So anyway, just something to think of when you get ready to turn these. And I'm sure you're all going to turn them and bring them in next week. Okay. Now I got to mix up some epoxy. This is actually how I mix my epoxy at home. Take a big board, put this freezer paper on it. If I figure out where to leave my epoxy. And you just try and get somewhat equal parts. It really doesn't matter much to me, as long as I get it pretty close. As long as you don't get way too much hardener and not much of the resin, you'll be all right. If you get too much hardener, you just better got to work fast. I managed to put everything on top of the table here, except the popsicle sticks. These were. I had some other ones that were thinner. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you're using epoxy.
But if you don't get enough hardener on it, it'll never harden. You got to get at least somewhat close amount. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ferro on.
They have that epoxy here.
No, I get that from this Woodcraft place down the street.
The one I use, I get from Lowe's. It's my favorite. It's a 5-minute.
I like the 5-minute epoxy. Now that doesn't mean
Well, it's 2 bottles.
it's going to dry in 5 minutes. That means you have like a 5-minute working time.
Yeah.
Okay. I try to keep.
How long will you have to hold that down?
Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put on the inside of here the epoxy where I'm going to put that other part inside there. I put some on here to try and smooth it out.
What you would use to, if you roughed up the magnet a little bit with sandpaper, and if you roughed up the metal a little piece, smooth it'll be.
Okay, I might have to put this on the vise on the end over there if it doesn't push in good enough.
Vice up, Bob.
You know what I just did? I put the epoxy on that end.
Ask if you were going to put it in backwards. Yep, it looked like he was moving backwards.
Well, it's just as long as I don't do it. But, yeah, I was actually contemplating really hard putting it in the wrong direction.
You want to see the keyways.
He's strong enough today.
I have breakfast.
Put it over here.
No, actually what I'm trying to do is keep from getting the epoxy all over there. It's over my hands. I'm trying to keep from getting it on top of here.
You got it.
That's because it cracked.
He's got a epoxy on the lathe then now.
Oh, it's okay. I'm done.
We could sprinkle some sawdust on it, and we'd be all set.
That'll be your problem next time.
Yeah, you use it next, aren't you?
And before he leaves, he'll slide the tailstock on top of him.
Yeah, move the tailstock up and see how you do with that. Anyway, I'll let that dry. And the part on here where I've got a little epoxy on here, I use regular steel wool. And steel wool on brass, after it goes up, it'll have a beautiful shine to it and takes care of everything you want to do on it. Now, as we're talking about the price on that thing, you can get as cheap as you want. Jim Kumsweiler has this theory, you can pay what you want for anything. You can go to a store and pay $20. You go here and pay $15. Go on the internet, pay 60 cents. You know, and that's pretty much how a lot of things work. Now, if you want to, these kits come from Rockler, and they are $9.95, $9.97 for the kit. So when they come out, I wait till they come on sale, the tap price, so it's $4.95. So that's a great deal. Then you go to Home Depot, and you buy their screwdrivers like this. This screwdriver is basically the same thing, only you take this out of there, and if you put a light through there, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but you can see how far the metal goes on there. So what I do is I take this, and I go to the bandsaw. Now these are $2.99 at Home Depot compared to $5.90 something, $4.90 something, or $10.
So it really is true, Rob, you can squeeze blood out of a turnip.
Oh, it gets worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I pre-marked that one. I looked at the flashlight, saw how thick it was. So then, I leave that. Then you have the insert, just like you would on the other one. And you make it just like I did, only use this as your insert. Now the difference is this is squared off compared to the other one, but it works exactly the same way when you go to put these on. Now, that's if you want to be cheap and get it for $2.99. If you're really, really cheap, you go to Harbor Freight, and they have one for $1.99 to do the same thing. So, okay. Well, then we're going to get out here.